So I have, people that I've never met in real life that will share funny book memes with me, share like ADHD mom things with me, share social media things with me that they think are funny. It's just so nice to have built that community. So you have like, that's the beauty part of social. And if you're wanting to get out there and connect, kind of like, I love that you've started doing that, because that, who's Spectrum of Light? Who's this woman? Like, why do I want to work with her? But now that I know, like, you actually do get it because you have a kid, you've shared your experience. Like, it's just so nice to know that person gets it. So oftentimes I'll have a client call or do like an action plan for someone, and they know that I'm going to help them create a plan that actually works for them.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Beyond Behaviour. My name is Ariela and I am your host. And I am so excited to have our guest here this week. Julia Walsh is the founder and lead strategist of J Walsh Social, a digital marketing company that's transforming how local businesses connect with their communities online. She built her company from the ground up while pursuing the often elusive dream of work life balance as a mother of two. Since founding J Walsh Social 6 years ago, she has expanded from serving local berry businesses to partnering with clients across Canada and the United States, all while maintaining the personal touch that defines her approach. Her success stems from a deep understanding that behind every small business is a person with dreams as big as her own. When she's not developing strategies for clients or mentoring her growth team, Julia can be found in Barrie with her husband and two young daughters, striving to live the work life balance that she always dreamed of. Julia, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I love getting to chat with you.
Me too. So Julia and I know each other. We are friends, and I have to say I'm a huge, huge fan. And I'm really excited to be here to talk about J Walsh Social. I don't know why I keep stumbling on that, but also to talk about your experience as a neurospicy, as you like to say it, mom. So let's let's talk about business first. Tell us kind of what led you to start your business, launch your business, and then what you do.
Okay. So I used to work at York University, and as you mentioned, I live in Barrie, so that commute is not the best. It was really hard when I went back after my first mat leave with my oldest daughter. And then I worked for 2 years, had another baby, and went back to work after that mat leave. And I was really, really, really struggling. The mom work stuff. I had to leave my house. I had to be at my carpool at 6:30 in the morning. And then depending on traffic, as everyone who lives locally knows what the 400 can be like, I was sometimes getting home after 5:30. My kids were going to bed at 7:30. And it was just that, like, I constantly felt like I was rushing after being, I again, leading into the neurospicy bit, I was diagnosed years later with ADHD, but a lot of this makes sense. I was just really, really struggling. So I took some leave from work, tried to examine what I could do. This was pre-pandemic. So the work from home job things, unless you had a really specific skill set, it was a lot harder to find. So I started my own business, and that's kind of where we are now.
Amazing.
I
And
just love,
yeah, go ahead.
oh, sorry. Like, it was the exploring of what I could do, and like I really just loved social media, so that's sort of how I got into that. And it was something I could do from home, and just loved that piece of working with other entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and I have to say, like, you're really good at what you do. I know this firsthand. We've done work together, but also I kind of met you probably a couple of years ago when you were not new, but I think you definitely hadn't scaled to, where you are even now. And I've
Hmm.
seen the hard work you've put into it, and I've seen kind of the innovation and change and, just the way that you approach your work with social media. It is very personalized, and you do bring your vibe into it. And I love your vibe. I tell you all the time I love your vibe. So tell us a little bit about the services that you provide and the work that you do with your clients.
So, excuse me, it started as just strictly social media management. So, if you had Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, email marketing sort of thing, I would just take that on. And I do enjoy that. And so, that's one of the main tiers of my offerings. But what I'm finding I really love doing is working on strategy for people, because I did find a lot of people don't have the investment month to month to pay someone to do it. They understand the value, they don't know how to do it, but they need to be able to do it themselves or have a member of their team do it. So that's something I've started offering a little more over the past year, is either like an action plan, which is my smaller package, or a VIP day service, which is a larger one, where we really dive in and make a plan for you so that you're able to use my knowledge, and I kind of really make it very personalized for your specific business. And then you're able to take that and implement it yourself.
Yeah, and I'm going to be doing a VIP day with you really soon, which I really need because
Mm-hmm.
social media, like I tell you all the time, is not my forte. I try, I'm there, but I definitely need a better strategy. And you and I did a mini VIP day, and I have to say,
Mm-hmm.
like walking away from that, even though it was like, it wasn't the intensive one that we're going to do together. I walked away feeling more armed and more prepared and just a little bit less overwhelmed. And I think that's where social media, like if you're not good at it, or, I'm in my mid 40s, so I'm tech savvy for my age, I guess, but I'm not like super duper social media savvy. It overwhelms me. I don't really know how to start, where to go, what you need to do. And you have a really good way of breaking that down. And I think too, because, with your ADHD, your brain functions a lot like mine. I always say I have undiagnosed ADHD. I'm, going through the motions with my son and knowing what I know. I mean, I've kind of self-diagnosed, but the way that you kind of put it out there and explain it makes so much sense to me and my brain. So, and I know that you do advocate a lot and you do post a lot about being an entrepreneur with ADHD. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and kind of what things you can put into place for yourself to support your success?
For sure. It's interesting. Again, I've dove hard slash hyper fixated on learning about ADHD because it is such an issue. And I really wish I'd known earlier because when you really understand how your brain works, you can support it a lot better. Had I known this years ago, I think I would have had a lot more success I killed it in high school. I was so smart, like gifted in middle school kind of thing. But then as things tack on, like when it became, I wasn't just managing myself, I was managing the kids and everything else. Everything just became so overwhelming. So I think that's when a lot of women have started to get diagnosed is they no longer can handle all of the things. And I know for a really long time, I couldn't understand why certain friends of mine, certain people in my life were so able to do so many things. And I was just so paralyzed constantly trying to do just like the basic stuff. And I've learned that a lot of entrepreneurs have ADHD because that typical 9 to 5 just doesn't work for us. Because some days I will literally bang out a week's worth of work in 3 hours. And other days I have a really hard time doing anything. So I have learned to really take advantage of those days when I'm feeling hyper productive and then just give myself the grace on those days that I really just need to sit and stare at a book or stare at my pile of laundry for a while. I think different systems work for different people. We're in an age where we are very lucky, I think, with all the different technology that is available to us. So I think what my main recommendation would be to people is explore the different systems that are out there, talk to different people. There's a lot of people I've worked with online who are also neurospicy and they help you with different systems. So some of them may not work for you, but if you talk to these people and learn from them, you can see the system that works best for you. So I have worked with a woman named Megan O'Toole who does Notion. So I've tried Trello, I've tried Asana, I've tried all kinds of things. Notion works for me the way it's really customizable and how you can set it up to be like pretty in the way that works for you. So I kind of have now been using that and I'm finding that super helpful. Zapier is really great for automation. So I've been using that to try and find ways to take some of those busy work, those steps out of things that I do day to day, and it automates it, which makes it a lot easier for me. Or, sends reminders. A woman I was speaking to recently, she said her main first step is become really good friends with your calendar. So I have a
Yes.
calendar on my phone. I also have a big wall calendar and I color code what's for the kids, like kids' activities, like appointments, events. I've got my work stuff, just my personal stuff. So I can look at it in one big calendar. That's helpful. But then I also have it on my phone. So I know like what's going on. I set alerts constantly, reminders, because
Yes.
I'll suddenly be like, oh my God, I've got a kid's dental appointment tomorrow I forgot about, but my phone will remind me the day before now every time. So it gives me that other just little reminders. I think it just depends what you need, but what works best for you, you really do have to play around a little bit and find something, but it really is sticking with it. And I know a lot of people with ADHD look for the next thing. And like, I know all those memes about like, this planner is the one that's going to help me. And it's, you just got to find one thing that
Yeah.
really works and stick with it.
And that's the thing, right? So, like, again, ADHD brain, like, I love being busy and I always have like 5,000 projects on the go, aside from the kids and the dogs and all the things, right? So, people always say to me, "Why do you do that?" I'm like, my brain needs that. But it's also, I love the big, brand new, shiny thing. And it's like keeping it going that's hard, right? My calendar, my schedule is my best friend. Like my phone, again, everything's color coded. For me, it's more like this is an appointment and this is like dance and this is soccer. Reminder. So reminder the day before, reminder an hour before, just like you for my work. Everything again color coded. It has been for years, and that's what works for me. I'm a very visual person. But in terms of all the apps that you use and stuff, that's part of you know what I've loved working with you is that you focus on social media and all those things, but you also bring all that knowledge with you, and you're really able to read your client and say, okay, here, try this and this and this app. It might be able to help you. And I love that you do that.
Mhm.
And you do that just because you're a nice person and you include that in all of your work. So, yeah, I think you come with a wealth of information. And I also love that you understand what it's like to have a brain that needs some accommodation. So, let's pivot and talk about neurospice. Neurospice as a mom, as you know, I have a neurospicy child. I'm neurospicy myself, as are you. How do you find that it affects you as a parent?
It's hard. I don't have a ton of patience. Like before kids, I thought I would be like the world's best, most patient, amazing, loving mom. Not that I'm not loving, but I find
Yeah.
a lot of this, like my kids are both also neurospicy in different ways. And so sometimes I hate saying triggering, but like sometimes when
Yes.
they're spiraling, it just really ramps up how I feel. And then I start getting I get overstimulated very easily. And as a mom, I think most of your life becomes overstimulating. So yeah, it's a journey for sure. And again, like I try and do a lot of research on better strategies for my family because a lot of things that just the basic typical advice for moms and or for kids really doesn't work for our family. And I've had to give myself and my kids a lot of grace in realizing like, I try and say like that's the way mommy's brain works. So we're going to have to do this. And I'll always talk to my kids about how it's, a superpower. Like we don't label them by any means to them, but it's just
Yeah.
like your brain works a little differently. So let's find a better way that we can make this work as a family. So it's a lot of trial and error as a mom to make things better, but I'm really committed to it being better. I don't want my kids to get to their 40s like me and then not have these strategies in place that had I had back then would have been more helpful for me too.
Absolutely. And I love too that, nowadays it's a lot more accepted and it's a lot more talked about, right? So it doesn't feel as unsafe to talk about the fact that, yeah, like this is what works for me. What works for me is not going to work for another person. And even for me, who again, I have the expertise and the experience and I've been working with neurodiverse folks for over 20 years and all the things, it's trial and error at my house too. Like I just interviewed my son for the podcast. And we talked about what happens when he has a tantrum or a meltdown, but it took us time to get there. And there are days that I am still triggered, and there are days that I feel burnt out, and there are days where I look at my husband, I'm like, I'm tapping out. You're it, right? Like we're all human. We're all human and we all have emotions. And I think, you know, people say to me, but how come? Because you're so good when you're, working with the kids and working with the people. And I said, but they're not mine. When they're yours and, it's that emotional, the emotional stress and the burnout and this is your safe space and it's your home and you don't want to constantly have to be on and then you constantly have to be on, right? Plus add that ADHD layer to it where like you just feel done sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Like it's hard. It's hard. And how would you say that like your partner has kind of taken to it, responded to it? Because it's always interesting to talk about that aspect of it.
So my husband was diagnosed with ADHD first, actually. We kind of had joked about it and then he looked into it because he's a lovely man, but just forgets everything. And that's just big for him. He has a lot of time blindness as well. So I'll be like, why are you getting in the shower? We have to leave in 6 minutes. Like, I'm not understanding why you think that this is going to take you 6 minutes and we'll be ready to go. So he was diagnosed first. And then we were noticing some stuff with our one daughter and getting some stuff done for her. And a lot of the questions and things that were being asked, I'm like, oh, that was me. Oh, that's also me. And then I started laughing at a whole bunch of memes that people were sharing in the interweb. And I was like, oh, okay. So I looked into that for myself. And then I also have it. But again, it presents so differently in women and presents so differently in different people. So that was a whole vibe. But so for him, he has a hard time with the patients as well. Like the kids also, I think he gets overstimulated with that stuff too. So it's just a lot of trial and error trying to work together. And the tapping out thing you mentioned, because sometimes he'll just be like, and okay, Jules, you got to go do something else. And then he'll take over because he can tell I'm like at my max capacity and just about to lose it. Like I've never yelled in my entire life. I was always a very quiet person. I have become
Until
a
you had
yeller as a
kids.
mom. Yeah. And I hate it. I'm like, I don't want to yell, but like, I'm feeling crazy here right now, girls. Like, blah. So we're just, I mean, my kids are now 11 and almost 9. So it's like an ongoing forever thing. But it's like you're saying, like, you have told me some amazing strategies for my kids, which have been super helpful with the tantrums versus meltdowns and like how to deal with those. But it's like sometimes it works and I can nip it in the butt and it's like perfect. And other times I end up like almost taking it personally. And I'm just like, okay, I need a minute. You need a minute. And then we'll get back to that.
Well, that's the thing, right? But like recognizing when you need that break because again, we're human and it's not going to be perfect and it's not going to work. And as my kids get older, I find that I'm becoming a little bit more of a yeller. Like I'm not a yeller, but I'll raise my voice sometimes, like if like as a last resort, but like I'm done. Right. And again, I'm a human. Like sometimes I'm done. I'll always though go back to my like that's my thing is I'll always go back to my kids and be like, listen, I yelled, that wasn't cool. Like but I'm human. Let's talk about it once we're ready. And my kids have become really good at talking about it, both my kiddos. But it's hard. It's hard because when you're in it, it's hard to step back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I think, the parent guilt and all that stuff that comes with it, like I always try to speak to the parents that I coach about like forget the guilt. You can't feel guilty because you are human and you're actually showing your children that I'm human too. What you need to do is talk about it, grow from it, learn from it, and be open to doing that, right? And I think that's the learning piece for them is like, okay, well, yeah, mom's not perfect either, but she was able to own her behavior and like we're gonna move on, right?
I think a big part of what you said too is that apologizing part, because I think I don't know what's best. And I've said to the kids so many times too, like, mom, like I'm learning alongside you, or, we'll have an issue that comes up with like my older daughter really wants to like be on her phone a lot and talk to her friends. And I'm like, I didn't have we had a home phone that we fought over constantly,
Yes.
my brothers and I,
Yeah.
as we were a kid. Like it was just, I'm learning this alongside you. And I definitely like to wait until I've calmed down a bit. And then when we're in
Yes.
a better spot, say, like, I'm really sorry I lost my temper. This is what you did that was frustrating. Mommy also had a really busy day at work, or something else has gone on. But it is that showing your kids that you're human and apologizing, because they need to understand that you can be wrong too. But I think that apologizing piece is really big, because they need to know that you were wrong and that that's not how you want to behave. And we really try, like, how can you be better in this situation? How do you think mommy could have handled it better? Like, do you understand why I was frustrated? How about next time we try this instead? I think that part's really important too. And and you're saying, give yourself grace. You are human. Like, you're not expected to be perfect.
No, and it's like, you're also in that moment teaching them the skills to do that themselves, right? So by
Yeah.
us modeling it for them and normalizing it for them, but also giving them the language, giving them the tools to show them that it's okay. Like we'll make mistakes, we'll own them, we move on. You're also teaching them that when they are older and maybe a bigger mistake happens, right? Like call me. Call me, I'll be there,
Yeah.
we
Oh
can
yeah.
talk about things, right? And I think those lessons are so important because I was of the generation that grew up that like was always scared to call their parents when something bad happens because I'll get grounded or whatever. And I think it's, yes, there might be consequences. Yes, there might be whatever that the outcome is of what happened, but at least know that I'm a safe person and I'm a safe person because I'm open and we communicate.
I love that. I was
Yeah.
terrified of my dad growing up.
Yeah.
But my mom was very much, and like we always said that thing, as I got older, but she modeled it from when I was very young. But when I got older, I knew, she's like, if you're drunk somewhere, I don't care if you're
Yes.
15, don't get in a car with someone else. I will be much more proud of you to call me to come get you at 2 in the, not that I was out at 2 in the morning at 15, but like I'd be much more
Yes.
happy to come pick you up somewhere or do something versus you be unsafe or drive with someone who's been drinking or whatever. So I really want that for my kids as well too, where they know I might not be happy about the decision you made, but the fact that I'm proud that you asked for help or called me or dealt with this more appropriately is more important than, that you shouldn't have made that first initial error.
Exactly. And I think actually saying that to your kids like your mom did is so important. Like I say that to my kids. So my daughter's 14. We have those conversations all the time. Like, I've worked really hard at being very frank with my daughter, very straightforward, very honest. So like she doesn't have to beat around the bush with me on things. And I literally say to her, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're like, how do I get out of this? I'm like, call me. We'll deal with it later. Call me. I'll come get you. I'll keep you safe. Right. So it's so important to say those words, not just hope that your kids know it. Right.
Totally.
Yeah. So I want to hear a little bit also about what's next for J Walsh Social Co. Do you have anything new coming out? Do you have any big projects that you want us to know about? What's going on?
So I have been working on launching my VIP day, which is where we just work together. You get 90 days worth of content and you've got kind of a system that you can utilize moving forward. So it's not just like I sit and write posts for you. Like, we do the work together, and you're able to kind of continue to replicate it month to month so that you are empowered to know what to do. And the issue, I think, huge in social is how fast things change. Like you're talking about, you are very tech
Yes.
savvy, I'm tech savvy, but it's one of those things where I like my job is to keep on top of the trends and keep on top of what's coming out so that I can help empower you to learn how to do those things. It's not up to you to try and figure all that out. Like I can help you do that. And I also, if people just ever want to reach out with a question, I love just being able to help. But it's my biggest thing is I am so passionate about the good side of social media. There's so many bad
Yeah.
parts about it, but I just love the connection piece that comes through it. And I just really want to help people get to use it better, because if you are not using it, other people,
Yeah.
your competitors are using it, you need to be able to be found, because most people aren't necessarily like, a website is amazing and it's so important, but often, like if I'm about to go to a restaurant, I'll probably look them up on Instagram first, so you want to make sure that your most recent things, everything's up to date, because if someone's going to look and you haven't posted in 6 months, they're like, well, you automatically wonder why. So it's just, yeah.
Yeah, and you post, I mean, I love, like, I follow you obviously, and I love your posts and stuff like that, and you collaborate often with other people, so I know you collaborate with, like, photographers and, web designers and things like that, and you have really fun
Mhm.
projects all the time. But I have to say, you're viral. What you're known for on social media as well is riding in cars with moms. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that little series that you put out
For
there?
sure. So this started probably 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I was finding like the time I was most alone and able to do stories or show up online, and I wasn't with my kids, and I had some brain spaces when I was sitting in my car. So I would often do a story like waiting for my daughter's bus, or I was at Zares for a few minutes alone, precious alone time grocery shopping. And so I just started talking about like, you're riding in cars with moms, and here we are. And I had so much response to that, with so many other moms laughing about like, oh my God, I spend so much time in my car, like shuttling my kid to, for you, soccer and dance and
Yes.
all that stuff. So it's often, that's the time you have to really sit and think. And so I launched a podcast earlier this year called Riding in Cars with Moms. Ariela is going to be on it soon. And it's just, initially the plan was to start filming, like recording these in our cars.
Yes.
However, we have had a very cold winter here in Ontario. So it's been riding in living rooms for now, but it's moving to riding in cars come spring.
But you're still, yes, and it's actually, like, I've been following along on the podcast, and it's awesome, and I love it because it's just candid conversations, right? About being moms and all the things. But you're still putting the posts out too, and I love that because you kind of you walk the walk, you don't just talk the talk. So you've really empowered me to post because if you look back at my Instagram, I wouldn't really show my face very much. It wasn't something I was comfortable with, and now I'm on there. Like I have my own podcast now, and a huge part of that is because of you, like, you have just really
I love that.
empowered, yeah, and but you do that, right? Like, that's what working with you for me has been the biggest thing is, like, I just feel comfortable in front of the camera, like, it doesn't matter makeup, no makeup, I don't have to sound perfect, like, I'm always nasally, as people can tell by now, I have allergies to everything, but it is what it is, I own it, I do it, and I get out there, and the more I do it, the more comfortable I feel, but I just love that you do it, and I can kind of, like, you know, just watch your stuff and be like, it's easy. It's not, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to overthink it. Right. And I think that's the big thing about what you do is don't overthink it.
I think that's where so many people get stuck. It's like, I mean, my hair is insane today. I don't have a ton of makeup on, but there's those people, like, people connect with that. Like, I'm a busy
Yes.
mom. I have a business. I have a life. I don't have time to have perfect makeup and show up every time. I'm not showing like my Stripe receipts. Those are the people that I just find really fake and that they're harder to connect with. Like, if you're a busy mom, I get it. And, I'm not going to tell you you need to post 37 times on Instagram a day to get traction, but people want to connect with you. Like, I
Yes.
want to know who it is I'm working with. I want to get to know them. Like, I share how much I like to read. I share things about my kids, being a girl mom. Those are the pieces I get so much more connection from people. And I've connected with so many amazing business owners through the things I've shared, who they now see the same thing. So I have, people that I've never met in real life that will share funny book memes with me, share like ADHD mom things with me, share social media things with me that they think are funny. It's just so nice to have built that community. So you have, like, that's the beauty part of social. And if you're wanting to get out there and connect, kind of like, I love that you've started doing that, because that, who's Spectrum of Light? Who's this woman? Like, why do I want to work with her? But now that I know, like, you actually do get it because you have a kid, you've shared your experience, I know how, like, I know that your kids do dance and soccer, and I know how busy you are. Like, it's just so nice to know that that person gets it. So oftentimes I'll have a client call or do like an action plan for someone, and they know that I'm going to help them create a plan that actually
Yes.
works for them. Like, if
Yes.
you're terrified about going on social media, I'm going to give you some little tips and tricks to start slowly and feel more comfortable. I'm not going to say like, hey, film your 3-minute video of you talking and let's put it on YouTube and do all this stuff. Like, if you're not there, that's not the advice I'm giving you. I want to give you stuff that's actually actionable, and maybe just those baby steps to get you more comfortable to where I can then tell you, like, okay, eventually let's get to here. But in order to get here, let's start here. So I just want to be real. Like, there's so many, big social media people online. I'm never going to
Yeah.
be one of those people
Yeah.
because I'm not perfect and I don't need 25,000 followers viewing my life. I want those people that get me and would want to work with me because they understand that I'm just like they are. Like, most of my clients have kids, two of my clients have ADHD as well. It's just, we get each other, and I love that.
That is what I love what I love about working with you, right? Because I have met and spoken to other social media people who are like, you have to show your face once a day or once, and I'm like, I don't have the capacity. Like, I just, and you have to schedule your posts 3 weeks out. I'm like, I will never do that unless I pay someone to do that for me, and I can't afford it. So, that's just not me. And that's not me, right? Like, I'll try to, like, you know, schedule it a week out, and most days I don't. But you kind of meet me and your clients where we're at, and I find that less overwhelming because as much as people try to help and they're up here, my capacity is down here. I can't be up here yet. Like, you really know how to meet people where they're at, and I think that is so huge. And aside from like success in social media and all that stuff, it just makes me feel successful, right? Like, success to me doesn't just mean a big following, whatever. Like, I'm not doing this podcast to get famous. I'm doing this podcast to just awareness and to help people. But success to me means feeling empowered, feeling confident in what you're doing. And that's really what I coach my parents and clients to do, is just empower you to feel confident, feel good about what you're doing, what you're putting out there. Um, and for me, that's a huge investment because I'd rather invest in that than invest in somebody who's going to make me feel like I'm not good enough or like I'm not reaching the goals I should be. And that's what I
Exactly.
find happens a lot, right?
And I think a large part of that too is that, like, when you're running your own business, it's really hard to be also marketing your own business because you're doing the stuff that keeps you busy. Like, most people don't have time. So I try and have it be like my riding in cars with moms. That was literally when I was feeling the best able to show my face and talk and not have like a kid hollering for something or trying to be doing something else. So it's just really about finding the time that you can and doing the best you can with that time you have available.
Absolutely. Well, this is great. How can people reach out to you, find you? I'll add that in the show notes as well, but tell us where to find you.
I am on Instagram at J Walsh Social. I love connecting there, so please reach out. I'd love to chat with you. My website is jwalshsocial.co. And my email is julia at jwalshsocial.co. So please reach out if you want to let me know you found me here. That would be super awesome too.
Amazing. Yeah, that's it for us. Thank you so much for coming on. I loved having you on. You know I love you. I can't wait to do our VIP day. I can't wait to come onto your podcast and talk all things moms. But until then, please reach out to Julia. She's pretty incredible. Even if you just want to, pick her brain about anything related to ADHD or social media, she's pretty amazing. And I will add her in the show notes. Until then, remember that we're all on this journey together. I thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.